About Kevin Gates and his wife, Drake, I was kind of disappointed to hear that after 12 years of marriage, that they were actually getting a divorce.
I'm happy that Dreka finally got her wits about her. You know what I mean? She's a lovely young lady.
I thought he was married to Brittany.
When you have an open marriage, a lot of times the other spouse asks a very simple request, and that is, do not embarrass me.
I don't want to think that he was out just wilding. I think it was an agreement at some point.
I think this is a conversation about, was she ride or die? Did she stay too long? Hell yeah, she stayed too long.
While I was gone, I heard about Kevin Gates and his wife, Drake. I was kind of disappointed to hear that after 12 years together, 9 or 10 years of marriage, that they were actually getting a divorce. I was happy to hear, however, that she had made sure that she filed that he could not file spousal support against her. And she definitely asked for child support and, of course, alimony. But I was curious because I think 7 years into the marriage, they've been ethically non-monogamous or at least open. And I know he recently was married to, I don't know, what's her name?
Renner?
Brittany Renner or something like
Yeah.
that, right? And then she was Muslim, and now she's not anymore now that they're separated.
She's
That's
still
another
Muslim.
story.
She's still Muslim. She just doesn't practice it with him anymore.
No, she took the hijab off. Now she's back, full cam girl.
So she's unemployed.
She's unemployed and she's back on OnlyFans. You know, that's kind of how it goes. It's like the catch-all right now. So I was curious because I'm thinking to myself, like, he had been, accused of cheating on her. He had been stepping out previously and then very openly talking about his sex life or his prowess online and in different kind of forums. So, like, did she stay around too long? Like, did they just milk this kind of for the PR or what it looked like? Because even when Brittany was around, I never really saw her around the space. So this all kind of interesting to me. What do you guys think?
Well, okay. I'm a little tapped into this story because I've paid attention to Dreka for a while now. And you said something that really resonated because you said, did she stay too long? This might be an example of, girl, you stayed too long, right? Because initially when they were together, like, all right, cool. I didn't really know much about Kevin Gates, but in the last 5 years, we'll say, he's exposed himself a lot. There's a lot about him that is peculiar, to say the least, right? And I haven't seen her in that peculiarity, if that makes sense, right? I've seen her in family photos around Christmas time. So it did for a long time seem like they were just on some mode, hey, we're doing our own thing. We're still married. I guess in some way we're committed to each other. And I guess for her, it got to a point where it's like, bro, you out here wilding to a point where I can't continue to be in a relationship with you because from what I read, the Brittany Renner situation was like the last straw. Essentially, right? Because you out here talking about you married to this bitch. I'm not saying that she's a bitch. I'm saying that's probably what she's thinking. You know what I mean? And you out here gallivanting with her. You got me out here looking a certain type of way. And we talked about it last episode. There's certain things people will be willing to put up with. And I think for her, she was like, oh, this is the bitch you're fucking with? I'm good on that, right? And it's ironic that she would feel that way about him, maybe because of her, because now I'm looking at her feeling some type of way about her because of him. Right? Because, like I said, he's exposed himself to be a little peculiar in a lot of ways. I mean, listen, his music is cool. I wonder how he's still relevant. I mean, I guess apparently people still like some of his music, but like as a person, as a personality, how he purports himself, he does seem to have some charisma or riz, as people call it. But the rest of him is like, ugh. Like some of the stuff he talks about is like, for real, fam? You could have kept that shit to yourself, my G, unless you about to start a cult. So, I mean, I'll conclude by saying, listen, I'm happy that Dreka finally got her wits about her. You know what I mean? She's a lovely young lady. I think men, when we talk about women who are open-minded to a certain thing, who are willing to follow leadership or whatever, she seemed to have exhibited those things. But the fact that she was him would probably maybe give the next dude some question, unless he's a fan or a groupie, in terms of like, what's up with you, shorty? Like, you seem one way, but you was over there with that. Right? And so maybe the saving grace for her was that it just seems like for the last few years, they haven't been together. So maybe the stench of him can kind of wear off of her a little faster. But let this be a lesson to all the women out there. Listen, people change in relationships. We get that. But sometimes you got to know when to push that ripcord. You dig what I'm saying? Because I think there was a point that the rest of us saw it. And maybe she eventually took, Brittany Renner for her to see it too. And so, hey, girl. You know what I mean? If you need somebody to talk to, a little shoulder to cry on. You know what I mean? But go ahead. Yeah, I'm just here to help. That's it. Go ahead.
I love it. You're here.
917. But go ahead.
Not you adding her to the harem. So this story kind of took me by surprise because, to be honest, I thought he was married to Brittany, because that's the last thing I heard about this dude. And I was like, wait, who the hell is this? And it turns out, oh, this was his original wife. And to be honest, his only wife, because Brittany was dropped like a bad habit, to be honest. And so I was really surprised and I thought about it and I was like, wow, so let me get this straight. She rode with this dude through all his shenanigans because before he even got with Brittany, he was on some shenanigans. And so that's when he got with her and she was supposed to be all Muslim and whatnot. I'm like, oh, wow, he must have really changed his life around. Is he a Muslim as well? Is this words like, is this a transformation that is occurring? And it turns out, nope, he was still on some fuck shit. And so for me, I think this is a conversation about, was she ride or die? In regards to your question, did she stay too long? Hell yeah, she stayed too long. And I think she stayed too long because she was under the guise of ride or die, because in the rap community, they're always talking about the ride or die female, the ride or die chick. You know what I'm saying? The bottom one, the one who's down for whatever and whenever, however's clever. And I think that's what she was trying to portray somewhat, so that she can be there for her man, so she can uplift her man, so she can support her man. And then he just kept embarrassing her, one thing after another. And even when they opened up the relationship, apparently, it was like, okay, now this is the last straw. You're disrespecting me. And it became a matter of, what does she want? Is her peace more valuable than public perception? And at this point, it was like her peace needed to be more valuable than public perception, because public perception got her looking like a fool and a clown. If you look at the fact that he talking about he had this other wife who he once again dropped like a bad habit. And so I think that in some cases, and while I'm actually very pro marriage and support marriage, I think that in some cases, divorce don't necessarily equate to being a failure. It can just be a correction of an action that you can course correct and then move on with your life, because this kind of left a stain on her, but just a little bit, not too much. But it does make you question some things, especially the part where you ask, did she stay too long? And more importantly, why did she stay that long? I would love for her to come on the show, not to get added to your harem, Nick, but to answer that question.
You know, the internet is undefeated. Not, I mean, one, because the internet is brilliant and it's cruel and it gives no fucks about anything, but also because the internet will switch sides on you in a minute. For instance, we say we want to ride or die chick, right? And we say, man, she got to hold him down while he going through whatever he going through. And then at the end of the relationship, we're like, oh, she stayed too long. But I personally don't think she deserves criticism in this moment. I think what she deserves in this moment is some applause. I'm going to tell you why I think she deserves some applause. Because she did ride with him, right? She rode out until... So a lot of times in circles, when you have an open marriage, a lot of times the other spouse asks a very simple request. And that is, do not embarrass me. Do not embarrass me. Don't make me look crazy. Don't make me look stupid. Do not show the world that you do not have regard for me if that is the case. The world needs to always feel like you have regard for me. And I don't think he did that. I think she deserves some credit for giving him a blank space to express himself, even express himself in ways that the industry and the public may not even have appreciated, kind of like Kanye and Kim. Right? When whatever. So I dig that. I dig that she gave him the space to express himself and to evolve and to grow. And then when they grew too far apart for the distance to make sense, she bounced. I don't think it lowers her stock. I think what it says is, here is a woman who is not swayed by public opinion. When she picks a man, she's going to be with that man until she deems it no longer in her best interest. That is a mature queen. I salute you, girl. Look, we've all been in relationships longer than we thought we should have. And that's usually the decision that we make after it's over. Hindsight is always 20/20. But when you're in that relationship and you're choosing to stick it out, even when this person's claiming to be married to somebody else, and you're sticking it out and you're doing what you got to do, nobody should have anything but respect for you and applaud you as you move on. I hope the next man that you find is further along in his development so that you don't have to experience as much growth with him that changes who he is. But it's still time for you, girl. You're beautiful. You'll find it.
I'm surprised to hear that response from you, Jay. I don't think I thought that was the angle that you were going, but I'm here for it. Yes, I kind of agree. I think, I'll go into my therapy bag just a little bit. Like, we all have attachment issues and styles. And I think that we take from the fact that he was Muslim and probably they had a conversation about a poly relationship because of that. Now, who knows if it came when the kids came, or did it come when they got married and he wanted to still be tapping and tipping? Who knows? But I think it was something that she agreed to on a religious basis, but she also converted to Islam when she married him as well, just much like Brittany did. So I don't want to think that he was out just wilding. I think it was an agreement at some point. But I'm glad that she knew that, at this point, whether it was Brittany or something else going on between them. Because if you watch her publicly, she's been like really solo in her magazine shoots and her interviews. She's been literally out there by herself. And so I agree kind of what S&M said about, him leaving a little bit of a stain, because sometimes you can date somebody that's not necessarily a representation of who people think you are. But, love is bigger than that. The heart doesn't think what the mind thinks. And so I'm glad that she made the decision to love herself most at this point. And so I wish her the best.
So listen, before we go S&M to the next one, I do want to say, Jay, you swayed me. I do want to say that this might be a first here on the VLC pod. You swayed me with your argument, right? Except for the part about about like, no, because I was with you in terms of like, we should applaud that. She did give it the time, and but what I disagree with you on, because I've paid close attention to her, was there were signs of this way before this Brittany Renner thing, right? When you're talking about like being in a relationship by yourself, to Tia's point, that's what she's basically been showing us on socials for this entire time. You wouldn't even remember or know that she was married, because she's been like literally like living her own separate life. So I'm saying, like, I agree with you. But if it gets to the point where niggas don't know you married for real, then there's probably more there. It didn't take Brittany Renner for her to recognize this. And people take for granted that, like, life is not promised. Y'all be wasting time on motherfuckers that you been already knew was not going to be it for you. So while I salute her for holding steadfast, I do agree. That's a good trait, but not for everybody. And when you look at him, you have to question, girl, did you not see the things that we've all been seeing this entire fucking time? So yeah, that's the only part I'll push you back. But you had me though. You had me with showing her a little bit more grace. Thank you for that, Jay.